This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. October 10th is World Mental Health Day, and this year we are saying thank you to therapists. BetterHelp therapists have helped over 5 million people worldwide on their mental health journeys. That's millions of stories and millions of journeys. Behind each one of them is a therapist who showed up, listened, and helped someone take that next step forward. Moments in therapy, like asking the right questions, having a safe place to get emotional or cry, or small wins that can change lives. This World Mental Health Day, BetterHelp is honoring those connections and the therapists who make them possible while showing how easy it is to get guidance from a licensed therapist online with BetterHelp. I've been doing therapy for over 2 years and I couldn't recommend it enough. It's helped me so much with relationships with my friends, families, even myself. It's helped me understand myself better, and it's just made for such a better life. It really has. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for live sessions based on over 1.7 million client reviews. This World Mental Health Day, we are collaborating with those therapists who have helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Our listeners get 10% off of their first month at BetterHelp.com/PFF. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PFF.
We're going, what are we going, Dolphins, Chargers?
Yeah, Dolphins, Chargers next.
Let's do it.
Chargers win this game 29-17. Cow, we got another post-game thing that we got to talk about here in this one. Before we do that, though, top 5 graded players that we have for the Los Angeles Chargers, the victors in this game. Wide receiver Ladd McConkey at the top of the list with a 79.3. Safety Tony Jefferson, 74.6, getting some extra playing time now that Alohi Gilman is no longer on the team. They traded him earlier this week. Safety Derwin James is 71.7. Safety Elijah Molden is 71.5. Cornerback Dante Jackson is 71.4. And then Justin Herbert in this one, a 66.0. On Miami side of things, edge rusher Jalen Phillips at the top of their list with an 82.9. Safety Minka Fitzpatrick an 82.8. Cornerback Rasul Douglas an 81.9. Running back Devon Achane with a 76.7. Wide receiver Jalen Waddle with a 76.3. And quarterback Tua Tagovailoa a 54.4. Seth told the story, Dalton.
All right, so I think offensively, when you think about the Chargers, I'm sure people out there are sick of me talking about their offensive line and all their injuries. But you find a way to score 29 points with this offensive line, you did a really good job. And I'll tell you, there's 2 things they did. 1, run off tackle. Don't even run between the tackles with some of the guys starting. You've got Austin DeCulis. You've got Bobby Hart starting. You've got Bradley Bozeman playing not 100% on the inside. Mekhi Becton was back, but he's hurt also. So, okay, let's just not force it between the tackles. The Chargers had 5 rushing yards, 5 between the tackles in this game. What do? They put extra tight ends out there. They put Scott Matlock, the big two-way fullback, out there. They run for 133 yards off tackle. Wash it down, run power, figure out some way to get your backs in space. That's number 1. Number 2, pass protection obviously has been an issue the last couple weeks. Justin Herbert, yes, we want him to be a vertical passer. We want him to sling it downfield. But with this pass protection, can't do it. What does he do instead? Only 38.9% air yard percentage in this game. Little more conservative. Season high for the Chargers, 163 yards after the catch. Those 2 things, the Chargers, Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert, finding ways to work around a decimated offensive line, won them this football game. It's a long road trip. The Dolphins offense played up. They actually, I thought for the most part, and Mike McDaniel called, I thought, a solid game for the most part for as little tools as he has to work with. The Chargers got in a higher scoring game probably than they thought they would, but they found a way in this one. At least against the Dolphins for 1 week, which they couldn't do the last couple weeks, especially against Washington last week. They found a way in this one to work around this offensive line. Did they play very well in this game up front? No, they didn't. But they found just enough ways to work around it between the quick passing and the off-tackle outside running to not just run into a brick wall on the inside where they're not blocking well. They found a way to do it. It's a lot of credit to me to Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman for this win.
To me, the stat that told the story was Tua's 3 turnover-worthy plays, and it was more than just the 3 turnover-worthy plays, but it was the predictability that I think that painted the bigger picture that we have here for the Dolphins this season and why they're struggling so much. So when you look at the first turnover-worthy play from Tua, it was a 3rd and 13 situation where the Chargers were obviously playing some softer coverage because it's 3rd and 13 and they were kind of just hunting around the sticks. But it was an in-breaking route that Tua was trying to hit, in between one of the deep safeties, but there was another defender that was able to just cut right in front of it. And so it was sort of that ability to break on Tua's passes as if they knew it was coming. That it's like, okay, there's the first interception. The second turnover-worthy play was a out route throw to the sideline that didn't get picked off, but I'm pretty sure it went through the defender's hands.
Derwin, it's the Derwin James one. It went right.
Yes,
it went right through his. Derwin should have picked up. He should have had 2 picks in this game.
So it goes right through his hands, and that's obviously a turnover-worthy play because it goes right through the defender's hands. But it was the same thing. They're playing a little bit deeper in coverage, which we know that the Chargers do anyways. They're a little bit softer because they want things underneath and they want to be able to hunt in front of them and really trigger downhill. So the Chargers are good at that anyways, but they were specifically good at it against Tua Tagovailoa in this game. And so that's another throw where it's like, okay, they predicted this throw. They were way too on top of this. And then the third one was at the very end of the game. It was sort of the Hail Mary that wasn't, where he was just trying to throw an underneath pass, but it gets picked off by Derwin. So it's like Derwin specifically, but really just the Chargers in general, they all knew what was coming. There's so much predictability in whatever Tua specifically is doing, where he is looking, or just how the plays are designed. And so that, to me, has been a major struggle of who Tua is as a quarterback, and then just this Dolphins offense overall. It's truly that predictability when you look at those 3 turnover-worthy plays and how the Chargers were able to hunt it and jump on it right away.
Watching this game front to back, I actually thought for the most part, I don't know what happened on the very last play, but you also have to go 80 yards in 5 seconds, so it probably doesn't matter. But
yeah, but they picked it off. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's a problem.
Like the crazy part about that one specifically, because I agree with you. You almost want to go just throw it out. Who cares about this play? But it's very interesting that the Chargers all lined up where they did.
Yeah.
I think they only had 3 players
back deep,
who were back deep, and the rest of them were underneath because they knew. They knew who Tua was.
And
they picked the ball off.
That's it right there, because watching this game front to back, I actually don't think Mike McDaniel, I thought he called a pretty good game, honestly. I really do. I thought Mike McDaniel called a good game for the most part. He just doesn't have, they don't have the horses. He does not have.
Clearly without Tyreek Hill.
If Mike McDaniel calls this same game with a more talented team, they're scoring a boatload of points. I thought he called a really good game. I think it is more just about, I think opposing defenses at this point know, especially without Tyreek Hill, just jump routes.
Right.
Because Tua's not, he's very rarely going to thread the needle. That's not his thing. Right. And he's obviously not going to improvise. For most quarterbacks nowadays, you go, hey, keep it in front of you. Make tackles, don't give up the home run. These teams are jumping routes because Tua doesn't have the home run.
Yes.
I mean, they just, I think, did he complete, was it last week or this week? I think it was last week. He completed 1 deep ball to Jalen Waddle. There was a deep post touchdown, right?
So that was against Carolina, right?
I think so.
So, yes, I mean, I know the play.
So, I mean,
there was at least that one.
At a certain point, you just go, all right, make sure Waddle doesn't get behind you, but everything else, go ahead and jump it. Because we think we can get there, and we know Tua doesn't exactly have a rifle for an arm either. I mean, but again, I've said it for weeks. It's the hamstrung part of this offense where they can't run the ball between the tackles. Everything, even in this game, is outside. It's all outside. Devon Achane, either a toss sweep or a screen or something to get him out in space, which is great because he's got blazing speed. Jalen Waddle, quick game outside. You don't see as much over the middle anymore as you used to with Miami. And obviously Tyreek Hill not being there is one thing, but really, especially without Hill, we've talked about this for a couple weeks already. What on this Dolphins offense do you really have to sit there and respect? And McDaniel, I thought, called a good game, and they scored 27 in this game. And yet the Chargers are still jumping routes and getting after it because they know they can get there.
And the most impressive for me, I want to make sure that this doesn't get lost in what we're talking about here with Miami. They're winning that game, 27-26.
A minute to go or whatever.
And there's a minute to go. And to be honest, the most impressive to me was that Chargers last drive, specifically Justin Herbert. Wow. Where Justin Herbert, he only attempted 2 passes in what was that drive that they needed to get down into field goal range, and he only completed 1 of them. But on both of his dropbacks, he was heavily pressured, and on the first one, he's navigating pressure and escaping pressure just enough to get the ball off where he needs to for it to be an incomplete pass and not take a sack. That's a positive Justin Herbert play there. And then on the next drop back that he had, it was the one where he had to avoid all sorts of pressure. He's getting tackled. He's about to go down. Ladd McConkey. And he hits Ladd, and Ladd's able to get the yards after catch and get them in a field goal range. That's another extremely impressive. Your back is against the wall. You cannot take a sack. You are getting pressured, because we talked about how the Chargers' offensive line is going to be an issue for them moving forward with their 2 offensive tackles out. And really just the guys in the interior are struggling anyways, even independent of that. So it was just I thought it was a great job, and I was so impressed with Justin Herbert to not take those sacks, to keep the play alive when he was under pressure, and to go help his team get a win.
Oh, no, that last play you just mentioned, that's crazy, too. The not only to break the tackle is one thing. To switch hands with the football, the ball was in his left hand, and within a half a second.
It's got to be in the outside hand.
Well, I always put the ball in your outside hand. We know this, but the ball, most guys are breaking that with 2 hands. Or the way he has to break that, he puts the ball in his left hand within half a second back to his right and finds McConkey immediately. It's one of the best plays I've seen all year. And it seems crazy for just, he broke a tackle and threw a 4-yard pass. But no, that's nuts. I don't know how many other quarterbacks. That's somebody, I forget who, but somebody mentioned it was that's Ben Roethlisberger type stuff that he used to do. That's crazy. And then you realize, Justin Herbert's 6'6" and 240. He can do those things, right? And honestly, he doesn't get enough credit for moments like that, and the numbers may not, the yardage totals and things like that may not say it, and he's not the favorite necessarily, but Justin Herbert's been playing MVP caliber football for this team. Most other quarterbacks with this current offensive situation, they're not winning this game. And he's finding a way to do it. And I'll give you the other guy. Did it feel like through the first 5 weeks, Ladd McConkey was kind of quiet?
Oh, yeah.
It was Quentin Johnston, little Omarion Hampton. It felt like he was quieter than we thought he'd be.
Sure.
This felt like a mini breakout game.
They needed him. Yeah.
When they really, really needed him. 7 catches for 100 and a touchdown, 4 missed tackles for us. The big play, the big yards after catch play after. He was a big part of the yards after catch total that was so high for the Chargers and setting up the winning field goal. They needed this one from Ladd McConkey, especially with Quentin Johnston out of this game as well. Omarion Hampton out. A great performance also from Kamani Vidal. We got to give him credit. I think the Chargers, like some other teams we've talked about, Tampa, San Fran, they're a team working through it right now.
Yeah.
And any win is a good win. I know it's the Dolphins, and I know you had to do it last minute, but any win is a good win right now in LA because of the injuries they're dealing with.
Yeah, I know Callahan ended up being the first head coach fired this season from the Titans. It feels like Mike McDaniel might be next, simply because it just feels as though this regime for the Dolphins, it's just not working. I mean, at the beginning of the year, it felt like we talked about the lack of effort in both trenches, specifically on the defensive line. The defensive line should not have looked as bad as it did through the first 3 weeks of the season. And it's like these guys just had no real motivation or discipline or focus or togetherness in the way that they were playing. And Bradley Chubb even kind of said that after the first couple of games. After this game, Tua is at the podium, and he once again, he already said this once this season, but he's like, oh yeah, well let's see who shows up. Let's see who shows up after things aren't going the way that they should be. And then at the podium this week, he says, well, leadership's a big issue. We need the leaders to be able to step up. There's guys late for meetings and these player-only meetings and things like that. And a lot of former players I saw on Twitter were chiming in, and they were like, hey, man, this actually looks worse on you. You're the leader. You're the quarterback, and you're telling us that you can't get players to show up for a players-only meeting? That's kind of an indictment on you, not whoever else you think it's an indictment on. So it sure feels like the Dolphins are sitting here. What's the record now? 1-5?
Yep.
They're 1-5 now. It doesn't feel like Mike McDaniel's going to get another season. I don't know how much longer he's going to get even this year. And if that's the case, I just don't think that Tua is the quarterback of this team next year.
No.
So I think that we're just hard resetting now what the Dolphins are going to be in 2020.
Aside from the game last week against Carolina, Tua's been also himself just one of the worst quarterbacks in football this year. I mean, even with that game baked in where he had a 90, he's 29th in PFF grade this year, and I believe he might have the second most interceptions in the NFL. Third most interceptions in the NFL behind Geno Smith and Jake Browning. I mean, it feels like the idea of what this team was supposed to be has just disappeared in the last year and a half, right? A couple of years ago when they made the playoffs, it was Hill, it was Waddle, it was explosive, the run game, McDaniel, the creativity, all of that. And I think McDaniel, again, I don't think he called a terrible game. I don't think he would get fired for schematic reasons or him not knowing offense. He's going to get another offensive coordinator job probably instantly. It's the intangible stuff. It is that stuff that Tua exposed after in the press conference. It is the moments with this team, not in this game, but there have been other games last year and this year with this team where it looked like they went out there with a lack of effort. If there's one more of those outings soon, then that's when you're going to get it.
Yep.
Because then it's just going to be like, okay, this team doesn't want it.